Hammers, build your body and your bank. Check out how to earn 10K per month plus with my business intelligence, finance technology, consultant training accelerator program. Link in the description.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's Hassan Hammer. All right, it is time for a workout. It's a bit of an earlier workout today. It's 3 o'clock p.m., better than 3 a.m. Although I'm finding some inertia coming earlier than later, mainly because I'm so locked in on my training academy mission and I am on the clutch time period where I have to come through. But you know what? I think I'm going to keep you guys posted on my online entrepreneurial activities, as well as the goal of getting to 180 pounds of 8% hypertrophic bodybuilding style natural workouts. Because 95% of the time I'm actually doing entrepreneurial pursuits, and this is definitely a hobby and I don't want to give it up. Now I remember I took like a 10-year break from bodybuilding style training. I was very enthusiastic about it when I was young. I really wanted to be a professional bodybuilder, but somewhere along the lines I realized after like 3 years of training that all those magazines with the extremely muscular professional bodybuilders, it's fake. They're using steroids, and for me that's not an option. I don't know, I just can't. It's not my angle. You know, people that do it, that's totally fine. In fact, most of the online bodybuilders I look up to are not natural. You know, so I still appreciate the sport, and I definitely know they put in a lot of effort. If you look at, there's a video by a fitness influencer, I forget his name, but he went and trained with Kevin Levrone, and Kevin Levrone was Mr. Olympia caliber bodybuilder. This guy, he's pretty developed himself, but he's not Mr. Olympia level caliber. He's a fitness influencer. He has over 1 million subs, but he doesn't have that Mr. Olympia level mindset. So he approaches Kevin and he's like, hey man, let's do a shooting if you can maybe train me. And of course, Kevin's like over 50 years old now, but you can tell there's like this killer instinct in him that when they started the training workout, he took it personally. He's like, oh yeah, you want to train with me? And what Kevin did was essentially he kicked that other fitness influencer's ass with just the empty 45-pound dumbbell. They did all this stuff for 2 hours. They did like half squats, top range of motion, bottom range of motion, all these static body holds. And you can tell the fitness influencer just wanted to cry by the end of it. And they didn't even lift a single piece of weight. So definitely I have lots of respect for the professional angle. Those guys are serious killers. For me, that kind of ended my dream because I didn't want to pursue the enhanced route. So I took a 10-year break and it wasn't fun, you know. I started too much leisure activities and I became unhealthy. Now, mind you, I still did other things. Like I got my engineering degree, I was working hard and all of that. But from a health perspective, when I took a pause on exercising, it wasn't good. My focus wasn't there. I wasn't as productive as I wanted to be. Once I reintroduced this back, amazing. I call it a keystone habit because it really allows you to focus. If you exercise, it gives you dopamine. Dopamine gives you focus. Also, it gives you more energy. I got this all from Dr. Huberman's podcast, Stanford University neuroscientist podcaster. He's really good. But I think it increases norepinephrine as well as dopamine, and the combination of the two, non-epinephrine converts into adrenaline. And after exercising, when you have those two things, you don't have that fog of laziness, which is just absolutely horrible. So that was my primary motivation. And after a year of doing cardio just to get rid of that fog of laziness, I was like, may as well start working out. And then I started working out and I watched a bunch of YouTube channels. It was 10 years and I hadn't worked out in a while, and I got all this stuff like leave 3 reps in reserve. I was like, all right, cool, that's how you do it. That wasn't how I used to train at all. I used to train just supersets, drop sets, going ham, pushing to failure, doing as much bench press as I could, and when I couldn't do more, I dropped 10 pounds, and then I'd do more, and then I dropped 10 pounds. And there's a bodybuilder named Platz. He calls this instinct-based training. He's like, when I work out with someone, I look to see if they have that instinct, if they can just figure out if they're going hard enough or not. So after my year of cardio, which is pretty good, I did stair sprints for 7 days a week, 25 floors. I would sprint up and sprint down, and it gave me razor sharp focus. But what happened was I was usually around 150 pounds. When I stopped working out, I was around 140 pounds. And then I added cardio 7 days a week and I became 127 pounds at one point. And I remember looking at myself, I was like, damn, I'm just like, I was still really low body fat. Like if I flexed, you could see striations and all that. So that was there, but I turned into a stick. There was like no mass on me. So at that point, I'm like, you know what? Let's just train like a professional bodybuilder without being enhanced. And I know I won't hit my goal or my childhood dream of being a professional bodybuilder because I don't want to go the enhanced route, but I can at least train like one. And that's how Hassan Hammer was born. Well, Hassan Hammer channel was born 2 years after the journey when I went from 130 pounds to 170 using what I call intensity-based training techniques, supersets, drop sets, rest pauses. So pretty much I leaned, after doing some experiments based on my research on YouTube, I found some people pushing for just go really hard. And those people are Platz, Dorian Yates, Coach Greg. Dude's a funny dude. He always disses everyone. Sometimes he goes too ruthless in my opinion, but his base philosophy of work out naturally, do zone 2 cardio for longevity, and just go really hard to failure, I do agree with. So I took that to heart and I went ham. I just did lots of supersets, drop sets, rest pauses, run down the rack style drop sets where, for example, if you're doing tricep push down, you start at like 90 pounds, you do 10, you get to failure, 5-second rest pause, you go to 80 pounds, 70 pounds, 60 pounds. You just attack the muscle for like 50 minutes. Now, another thing I was doing before, which actually made me plateau, was I was working out 7 days a week because I'm all about that cognitive edge, that mindset of the razor sharp focus, and that's what gave it to me. However, I plateaued, and after some experimentation, it was Dorian Yates. One of his videos was like, hey man, are you getting stronger? Is the weight going up? Are you adding muscle? If you're not, why don't you try something different? Instead of going to the gym every day, go to the gym every other day. But when you go as hard as you can. That was initially a hard pill for me to swallow because I was all like, I'll never miss a day no matter what. Once I decide something, I'm gonna do it and I will not miss a day. Well, I experimented with this technique and I put on like 10 pounds of muscle. So turns out I was working out wrong. You cannot work out 7 days a week for the best results. Maybe you can, but I was doing one body part per day. Now I do two. So I stand back, break, then arms, shoulder, biceps, triceps, break, then legs, and then legs are high load and high volume. I alternate, and that gave me fantastic results. So why? I was able to up the rest, like a day off gives you more rest, and I was able to up the intensity. When I went back, I just went harder. So I did try every other day like Dorian actually recommends, but for me, I plateaued with that too. So after a lot of experimentation, I worked out for 3 years when I was 15 to 18, and then sporadically every now and then throughout the 10 years that I took a break. And then after that, I've been working out for over 3.5 years now. So after a lot of experimentation, I'm confident I found a really good technique, which is work out every other day, 2 muscle groups at least, and use intensity techniques. So I found these intensity techniques and they started working. And then I wanted to document this whole procedure. Why? Well, it was for a multifaceted reason. It was for 2 reasons. One, I am trying to sell a digital product, a training academy that produces project management consultants in finance technology in the domain of data analytics and business intelligence, BI tools. Why? Well, that's my expertise. I studied engineering, and after that, I spent all of my time, and this is the field I pursued. Now, to make a digital product, well, you need the product and you need a way to distribute it. And one of the ways is you create media and then you have a call to action. You probably saw it right after my 10-second intro. It goes, hey, build your body and your bank. Well, that's the primary motivation behind this channel, is because I could do business content for sure. It probably makes more sense. I could also probably do mindset content because I absolutely love that stuff. But the easiest content for me to make is actually fitness content. And the reason for that is I'm always engaged in it. You know, it's something I definitely try to do. All right. Okay, I'll pause my ranting soon and we'll start the workout. But so I'm going to take the angle of this channel to 2 things. 1, business, 2, exercise. The exercise is going to be maximizing what's possible naturally through hypertrophy training, and the business angle is going to be just a journey following along with me creating this training academy. Yeah, so I actually have 2 goals. Now, the first goal is 180 pounds, 8%, maximize my natural potential with as much muscle as I can put on naturally. The second goal is I want to hit 100K a month through digital entrepreneurship. Now, that sounds kind of, silly for me to say verbally, but that's my actual goal. And why that goal? Well, through my career, I was earning over 400K per year salary equivalent. It was like $17,000 a month take home. And essentially, I could get whatever I want. I was living in a 4-bedroom penthouse. I had a Porsche, and it was great. I was leading a team of 20 people. The people I worked with, I looked up to. The projects I did were really cool. But after you do that for 5 years, you want like a different challenge. And it's been my experience in life that like when you I don't want to use the word conquer, but when you satisfactorily complete a challenge or a route, to go to the next one, you have to climb back down and then climb back up again. So what do I mean by that? Well, when I was a computer technician, I did it for like 10 years from the age of like 13 to like 22. And it initially was really cool. I could make money as a technician at a repair shop. I was working at Future Shop as a laptop technician. I made really good money there. I had a car before all of my peers did because I got certified. My dad pushed me when I was in grade 8 to get the technician certification. I'm glad for that. And I started fixing laptops on Kijiji, and I could make money pretty easily. But after 10 years, there came a day where I'm like, I'm not going to fix another computer. I'm just not going to do it. I want to do something different. And that started my engineering journey, you know? And then 5 years later, I had an engineering degree. And that was amazing, you know? I got to learn a whole lot of math. It wasn't easy, actually. First I went to McMaster, I dropped out. I failed. I couldn't pass calculus, which was interesting because I got a 94% in calculus in grade 12. Mind you, that's after failing once because the first time I got a 54 and then I had to repeat it. Then I got a 94. Then I went to engineering in McMaster and then I failed calculus there. And the second semester, I just couldn't get my shit together and I failed linear algebra and I had to drop out. Then I went back for aerospace engineering. I tried again. This time I passed. This time I got the engineering degree. It was brutal. I remember at the time, I'm like, fuck, this is impossible. I had to remind myself, millions of people have done this, so I can definitely do this. It's all about the behavior. As long as I do the same action as they do, it doesn't matter how I feel. It's just about the behavior. I just have to do the same action and I will get the same results. I put all my brain power into it. I'd have my productivity journal, the same stuff that I tout on my mindset module. Of course, that's in the training academy, so you won't have access to that, but it'd be the productivity journal and then 12 hours of work a day trying to get my engineering degree. And one day I got the degree. And then I applied to 200 places and I realized, you know, I see a lot of smart engineers. All my peers were like very brilliant and there just wasn't that many jobs. So I could see the angle this was going. There's going to be stiff competition, not a lot of jobs. And although I had a passion for engineering, I picked aerospace just because it was the hardest. It taught me CAD design, it taught me electrical, like I specialized in avionics. So I knew the mechanical aspects, I knew the electrical aspects, and I knew some specialized courses that you wouldn't get to learn, like aerodynamics and fluid mechanics and gas dynamics 1, gas dynamics 2, and so on. So I picked it because I wanted a well-rounded approach, ultimately for entrepreneurship, my passion, but I wasn't dead set on, hey, I must work as an aerospace engineer. I was flexible. So after a lot of research, I decided to join the software field. I started with a company called Trapeze Software Group, which makes transit operations software. And of course, it helped I had an engineering degree because that looks strong on the resume. But that's not what got me the job. What got me the job was actually self-studying on YouTube SQL. So I became good at SQL through studying on YouTube, and it took some effort because, you know, like these things don't come naturally. You just have to do repetition. We were able to learn the English language through repetition, 10,000 words. We were able to walk through repetition. So SQL, I just drilled it for like a couple of months. Eventually, I became comfortable with it. And I became comfortable enough that when I talked to the hiring manager, I didn't sound like an idiot. That's the fact of the situation. I'd like to say I was really good at it when I started, but I wasn't. But once you start, you know, you put in a few months of work, and then you can do the easy tasks, and then you Google around, and then you can do the harder tasks, and slowly you build up for it. So I started there, but I was getting paid like 60K a year. I wanted to join the developer team, but they were working with C programming language, which I did have to do in engineering. However, it wasn't like the new stuff, you know. I think that at the time period is about like Ruby on Rails, document object model, and I was going all into the technical route, and the developers were making like 100K a month, and I was making 60K, and I'm like, you know, I want to make like 400, you know, just ambition, and why not, right? Like, if I'm going to work hard, I may as well try to do the difficult challenges and get rewarded for it. So at that point, I quit my job. I'm going to keep the story short because the same story is in my video sales letter in detail, but essentially what I'm saying is I had to climb back down the mountain. So at first I went up technician, climb back down, engineering, climb back down, then software as a technical resource, climb back down. And then I started consulting, project management consulting, and I had to study a lot for that one. I had to study for like a year. I had to get 3 certifications. I got the project management professional, the Azure Cloud Architect, and the professional Scrum Master. Plus, I studied a whole bunch of textbooks on top, like team topologies, continuous integration, continuous deployment, data engineering. And I was pretty good at studying, so, because I had to learn how to study by brute force. 50 engineering exams later, you figure out how to study. But regardless, so I learned all of that and I applied it, and boom, first job, $6,000 a month. Unbelievable. Double my last pay. Not long after that, I was earning 12, then I was earning 17, and then I worked for 5 years, and then I got the itch. I got to do something different. And by that time, I already had what I wanted. I wanted a Porsche. Porsche's gone, unfortunately. You can see the VSL for what happened. I'm going to get another one down the road, but for now, I do have this E39 540. It's the V8 manual, which I quite like. Even compared to the Porsche, it's still really, really fun to drive. So what I did was I saved up $50,000 and I quit my job. Over 400K per year salary equivalent, amazing job, amazing lifestyle. I took all that, I put it aside, and I went on frugal mode, and here I am trying to launch this academy. Now, why this? It's because after a lot of reading, there's a few people that speak out to me. One, Naval Ravikant, who says, productize yourself. Take the specific knowledge you know, not the knowledge you can learn from classrooms, but the specific knowledge you know from being at the frontier of an industry, usually a technology trend, productize that and turn that into a business. And that made sense for me because, I spent almost 10 years gathering all that knowledge, becoming good at it. So I'm an expert on it. What better business to make as my first one than that? And of course, I have to produce value. A business makes money when they produce value in excess of the raw materials it requires. Now, in this case, it's not a hard goods business, but the raw material for me was, my time and what I got out of that, which is if I'm going to make expert level consultants and I need to pause a career that earns 400K per year salary, then I need to figure out how to add enough value to people's lives where I'm compensated greater than that in return, or the business by fundamental principles is not economically viable. I won't be able to teach it unless I add enough value to other people's lives where the results are such that it's worth it for them, and then I'm able to charge what I need to, so it's worth it for me to deviate from a profession that is able to generate that value. So putting all that together, I saved up money. I saved up $50,000 and I quit my job and I started down this route. So 2,400 hours later, here I am. Last week I was down to $900. So quite SOS mode, I have to say. I thought $50,000 for sure would be enough, but I spent a lot of time creating the modules, coming up with the roadmap, researching how to do advertising and all of that. And lo and behold, like a year later, $50,000 is gone. I have like $900 left. Now, luckily for me, thankfully for me, I am back in my parents' house. They allowed me to stay there for as long as I want, and I can create my business out of there, no problem. My burn rate is still at least $1,500 a month. Pretty crazy to think about. Just the various softwares and licenses and car expenses, and this is the minimum. I'm not going outside at all unless it's to drive to the gym. I haven't seen the daylight since the last time I came to the gym in the morning. So I'm all in with my time and money, and still my burn rate is $1,500 a month. So you can do the math. $900 cash on hand, burn rate $1,500. I have to make this work now or it will fail. Now, luckily, all that money is in Tesla investment. I'm a huge believer in Tesla, and I quite look up to Elon Musk's principles. And in fact, a lot of these entrepreneurial pursuits were inspired by his story. So luckily, Tesla made a run for it. In the lows, it was at 250, and right now I think it's pushing like 420. So I'm back at like almost $2,000, which is good. Buys me a little bit more time. Now, that all being said, I'm working 12 to 16 hours a day trying to launch this. And then I am trying to do my workouts. So there's quite a lot of inertia in the workouts because my mind is locked in on that mission. Go, go, go on that direction. And I have to say, I think I found the upper limit of productivity. And this is the first time where I've been able to sit at a desk and work for 12 hours straight. And I don't recommend you do this because there's something called active couch potato syndrome, where even if you're going to the gym, if you're sitting still for 12 hours at a time, it's not good for you. I'm just doing this temporarily. You should get up and walk around every hour. You should do something like the Pomodoro technique, at least every 2 hours or so. But for this crunch period, that's how I'm doing it. Now, how is one able to sit and work for 12 hours straight? Well, first of all, I go to bed at like 7 a.m. So when I start my days, it's usually around 3 p.m. So my mind is already like, oh crap, half the day is gone. I got to get to work. And then you just push that off into the evening. Second, usually what I recommend is what's called the 10-second ice cold shower technique. And I change that to a minute. So when I wake up, I go to the shower, I take my normal shower with hot, warm water or whatever. And then as soon as I'm done, I switch the cold all the way to the cold and the hot all the way down. And over here in Ontario, in Toronto, in Mississauga, it's getting colder. So the water is like really cold. And for the first 10 seconds, I don't allow myself to flex my body because the natural instinct is to flex, and that takes like 40% of the cold water edge off. So the first 10 seconds, I just stand there, let the water hit my face, and it kicks in what's called the diver's reflex, where you gasp when water hits your face, especially when it's cold water. Wim Hof, the Iceman, if you look him up, he swears by this, and I think I do too now. And it boosts your dopamine by 250%, means a precursor to focus. When you combine it with exercise, now you're stacking dopamine for focus. And you can't get dopamine from drugs for focus. It doesn't work well because that's peaky dopamine. So you can't just do something like drink alcohol and be like, hey, I have dopamine, I'm gonna get focus now. Because why doesn't that work? Well, it's because first, you're intoxicated. Second, it's because it's peaky dopamine. You want to raise your baseline of dopamine. You don't want to raise it in an acute fashion such that half an hour later you're crashing below baseline. You want to raise your baseline, and you do that through exercise and ice cold shower. So I would take my ice cold shower when I wake up, and I've done my, to failure, going ham exercise, and what's it called? Through those two things and 4 coffees per day, I'm able to sit at my desk and I just work continuously straight. And of course, it's something that I have a passion for. I totally enjoy online entrepreneurship. I enjoy creation, studied engineering, creating. Ideally, my ideal job is an inventor, whether it's digital creation or not. And it's something I'm working on that I'm passionate about. Project management consulting in software for data analytics and business intelligence. And I'm passionate about this because through my consulting contracts, I actually got to the point where I was creating vendor level implementations. So these are things like you take custom PPM software that organizations would pay $60,000 for. And what that would do is it would allow them to manage a team of 200 people. So I was building this from scratch, and I had to figure this out. All of this knowledge is something I enjoy. So I figured out the upper limit of productivity through this. So you work and you work with focus. And if you get to the point where you start, this happens after like 11 hours, you start hyperventilating, you're sitting there and you're like, then you take a break, you lay down, you read a book, you go on YouTube, you go for a walk. I like to play Counter-Strike at that point. Why? Because a fast reaction game tells you how alert your brain is. And if I'm able to get to position 1 and 2 in Counter-Strike with these, I'm going to call them little kids, I don't know if they are, but they got these hyper fast cat-like reflexes and they're just trying to shoot you. So if you're able to compete in that arena, I know my reflexes are there. And reflexes is linked to cognitive performance. Your brain is working faster. So after all of that, I take a break, I play some Counter-Strike, and I use that to evaluate how lethargic I am and how much of a break I need. Usually what happens is the game gets me worked up because, you're last position for a couple of rounds, and slowly you work your way up back to number 1, and by that time you're ready to go. But I'll pause there. So that's the angle on the business. I have about 2 to 3 weeks of runway again, thankfully, because of Tesla. Now, what's going to happen if I run out of money? Well, either I can go back to work. Thankfully, I still have a career where I can earn $400,000 a year salary equivalent, $18,000 a month. So if it really gets, unbearable, then I'll go back to project management consulting. It is a booming field and recruiters are contacting me daily. I'd prefer not to do that. So if I really run out of money, I'm probably gonna contact my friends. So if you're my friend and you're watching this, if I call you in 3 weeks, don't answer because I'm out of money. But I'm gonna try really hard not to get to that point. So what's the game plan for that? So essentially, the game plan for that is I'm doing a lead magnet. So my focus tracker, I've been using it for like years. I'm going to turn that into a lead magnet. You put that in an opt-in page, and then you offer it as a free product. And people that sign up to it, they kind of raise their hand and like, hey, I'm interested in what you're selling. This is all from marketing techniques. This is how it's done. You get the opt-in page, you get your lead magnet, you put it in what's called a call to action. You'll probably see it at the end of this video, the same lead magnet. And the people that are interested in how I made the transformation using the focus log, they'll sign up for this, and I'll have a list. And to that list, I'll be like, hey, check out this training program that teaches you how to become a project management consultant in finance technology for business intelligence and data. And you can earn $10,000 a month if you complete the program successfully and all of that. Get the certifications, learn how to do the tools. So that's one advertising technique, which is, I believe, called lead generation through opt-in form, high value content offer, the lead magnet, or just simply a lead magnet. So that's one angle. So that is going to go live soon, and it's going to get distributed through these series of videos. The second is my about page on school is called a landing page. It has a video sales letter. And essentially you just explain the whole program and you define the problem. Universities aren't training students for the real world needs. It's actually the people that are able to self-study that are getting ahead. The people that are self-studying to getting ahead, they're getting these specialized industry level credentials, kind of like graduate level credentials, such as the professional credentials like PMP, cloud architecture, and so forth. So you define the problem, you share your story, you define how you solved it, then you share the solution path, and whoever watches the video, if they're interested, they'll just click sign up there. So that's the second angle. The third angle is hand-to-hand combat advertising. This is, I think, what's actually going to work, because in 2 weeks, I can't really build a brand. In 2 weeks, I can't do conventional advertising. So I have to go hand-to-hand combat. And hand-to-hand combat advertising, what does that mean? Essentially, hand-to-hand advertising combat means first you scrape a list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a virtual assistant. I found 2 virtual assistants through Reddit, Filipino-based virtual assistants, and they're actually really good. Their English is good, they're polite, and so on. They actually help me edit these videos, so thank you guys. But you can either go on Upwork or you can go on Reddit and find virtual assistants. But the first step for hand-to-hand combat advertising is you scrape together a list of your ideal clients. So for me, that's engineers, programmers, and professionals with at least 3 years of experience that are struggling to get a job that would like to make $10,000 to $20,000 a month as a project management consultant. So you scrape together a list, you go on LinkedIn, you go on Google, you use these special filter queries where website equals LinkedIn, title equals this, and Google will spit out a page of contacts. So you put that into what's called a scraped email list, and then you take that and you put that into an email outbound software like Apollo or Hunter.io. And from there, you warm up your outbound emails by sending about 40 a day. And then you actually ramp that up to 400 emails a day. And then you use a software called LinkedIn Helper or Salesflow, and you find ideal candidates on LinkedIn, and then you pitch them to the VSL. Of course, your product has to be good, otherwise no one's going to buy. And I have my double guarantees, so I stand behind it. If I can't deliver the results, then of course I don't have a business and all of that. So you got to nail that. That's why I spent 2,400 hours getting that right. And then you use hand-to-hand combat to scrape together a list. Then once you have this list, you do 400 emails outbound using Apollo, and you use ConvertKit to do the opt-in form with lead generation for your high-value content offer. For me, it's the focus log. And then hand-to-hand combat with the scrape list, the Apollo, and I forget. So all of that is what I'm figuring out right now. That's why I'm spending 12 hours a day. And at the same time, we have to get to the upper limit of natural hypertrophy, the primary purpose of this channel. So I'll pause there. I think I will keep you guys tuned into the entrepreneurial journey and the fitness journey, because you know what? Why not? And I don't even know if that many people are watching this, so may as well just talk about what I want to talk about. However, I think I ranted too long today. So if you are watching this and you don't want to hear it, let me know. I'll just switch back to the fitness angle. But for today, let's go in there. I'm doing chest, back, and the accessory work is calves. Same thing as usual. I will do ignition sets, and then I will do my working sets will be supersets, drop sets, and I will be leaving 0 reps in reserve, going as hard as I can to get maximum stimulus, muscle stimulus today, which in turn produces maximum protein synthesis from the exercise stimulus. And then I add 3 protein shakes per day on top of that. All that together took me from 140 pounds to 170. I'm pushing to 180. I'll pause there. I'll see you guys inside. All right, time to start. Okay, so I'm gonna be doing an efficient angle. I don't recommend you do this because it increases the risk of injury, but essentially I am going to integrate my warm-ups into my workout. So what you should do is 5 minutes of stair climber to raise your core body temperature. In fact, that's what I did for 3 years, but I want to get back to work on the training academy. So with that in mind, what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna jump into the accessory lifts, which is calf work. And then in between sets, I am going to do leg stretches and stretches. That way I can be a bit more efficient. So with that being said, let's get to calves. And for calves, it's ignition set and then a multi-level drop set after that for the actual working set. All right, so I'm gonna start with the ignition set, which is on this machine, it's 50 pounds and 20 slow reps. Usually I don't make it there, but I'm gonna try. I like to go to the full stretch position. You just feel it even on the static hold. It really burns by now. Okay, now I'm gonna switch to partials. These don't look like much, but they really burn. Okay, so this is the run down the rack style drop set. Essentially, it's like a 5 to 10 level drop set. And I'm gonna start with 90 pounds. And the trick here is to go slow because I'm going for hypertrophy. So I go for the full stretch. The full stretch position is actually more important than the top position, even though that seems counterintuitive. Okay, partials. I can barely move it now. This one's all about mind-muscle connection. You have to really feel it. Okay, now the drop set. I drink coffee, by the way. That's hot coffee. It raises my core body temperature up faster. partials. All right, this will be the last one. I'm on 30 pounds now. All right, 3 sets of pull-ups with partial reps. All right, set number 2. I'm taking 1 minute and 30-second rest periods. It seems short, but that's how Dorian Yates did it. Keeps my cardio up. Partials. All right, set number 3 on pull-ups with the partials. All right, seated rows. First is an ignition set. I got this concept from Athlete X, and I'm using 75 pounds, so not a lot, but pretty much you get the muscle pre-exhausted, and then you do your working set. So this is the working set, 120 pounds. I'm going to do 12 plus 5 and then 10 plus 5 on the drop set. You want to lean forward. All right, deadlifts. Set number 1, warm up, 25-pound plate on both sides, 8 to 12 reps. Okay, so this is the first working set, 45-pound plate on both sides, on each side, and it's going to be about 10 reps. All right, set number 2, it's 45-pound plate, 25-pound plate, and is for 8 reps. Set number 3, last set for this, another 8 reps. All right, next we're doing chest. 3 working sets. The first one's warm up, so about 20 reps. There's just 25-pound plate on the sides. Okay, this is the first working set. I'm gonna go for 9 plus 7. I have the safety bars this time, so I'll be able to be a little bit more, I can push it a little bit more towards failure. So 9 on this and then 7 on the drop set. This is 45-pound plate and 25-pound plate on either side. And that's the thing with progressive overload. Since I've been writing down my reps, I know the 9th one is near failure. I barely got that up. Now on the drop set, I'm less meticulous with counting the reps, but about 7. Okay, so set number 2, this is 4 plus 6, but maybe I'll go for 5 if I have the safety bars. Four is good. All right. Now 6 on the drop set. So doing the drops, the first portion gets you the load, and the second portion gets you the time under tension. All right, last set, 4 plus 6 again. I'm doing 1 minute and 45-second rest periods. So I want to pinch my shoulder blades together, get a nice base. All right, looks like 3 is all I'm gonna get. 4th is a fail. Well, I still have to do my drop set. So I have to figure out how to get this. All right, That's it for bench press. Okay, so last exercise, 2 sets of dips. Now, I don't really progressively overload on these. I just go for maximum stretch. This is a mind-muscle connection exercise, and I understand that I go beyond the recommended. It's because I want the full depth, and it's because I've been doing this for over 3 years. So unless you're well practiced, this does risk injury. Do go for the full stretch, but work on it slowly. The full stretch is the best part though. Then the partials. All right, last set, superset with partials, set number 2 for dips, and we're done. You know what? We're gonna throw in one superset of traps real quick. Just gonna do it with rest pause. Alright, so I'm gonna do about a 5-second rest pause. It gives me just enough energy and grip strength back to work out those reps that count. It's a really efficient way to sneak in a good working set by doing like a triple drop set. That's it. All right, that concludes the chest and back workout. Okay, so let's do a pump check. First is front relaxed, then rear relaxed, okay, then rears with the traps in the shrug position, and then rear with lat spread. And then rear double bicep. Side tricep. Let's do the left side. I don't know how to do this side. Okay, most muscular. Okay, let's do front double bicep. This one's tricky. It requires a stomach vacuum. So first I exhale. All right, guys, I think that's it. That one's hard. Thanks for joining me. Tomorrow I'll be doing arms, and I need to catch up. So I'm gonna try to do it tomorrow, and I will see you guys then. Actually, let's check out these chest variations. Oh, shoulder variation is looking pretty good. Left side. All right, that's it. Hey there, Hassan here. Do you want a copy of this tracking sheet? Gamify your progress and level up. It's exactly what I used. Just click the link in the description for your free copy.